Algebra 1, Section 2.4, the distributive property. Going to move quickly here. I like these first couple problems because, again, I can emphasize some mental math stuff. Don't use a calculator on this. Think about this. If you need to pause the video for a second, think how are you going to multiply 26 times 98? And I don't even mean use paper on this one. Think about it. What would you do? I would ask the class this right now, and I always get a similar suggestion, which is multiply 26 by 100. That's, 98 is close to 100. That would give you a roundabout figure, and then you can just subtract 26 away from that number twice, or subtract 52 from it, as it were. So 26 times 100 is 2,600. Take away 52 would be 2,548. Here's the work as you would kind of think through that. 2,548. Okay? How about this one? Find the total cost of 4 CDs that cost $12.99 each. Yes, your textbook series is more than 10 years old. Back at the time, CDs were the technology, so no teasing. Okay? Think about it again. Pause the video if you need to. 4 CDs that cost basically $13 each would cost you $52 roughly. Okay? But then they're actually 1 cent less. Each one of them is 1 cent less. So take away 4 cents total from $52, and you'll have $51.96. No calculator needed, no work even really to show on that. It's a good mental exercise, though. On problems like this in the homework, I would encourage you to do what we just did on those first two examples. $51.96. Okay, and then we really get into what the distributive property is. And basically what this distributive property does is it multiplies what's outside the parenthesis as it sits right here. We know this is multiplication by everything that's in the parentheses, each term individually, that is. Okay, so 3 times 4m, we know that 4m is also a multiplication, but it's not a distributive property to the 4 and to the m. This is a term. We're going to multiply that term by 3. So 3 times 4 is 12m. And then it's going to be negative. 3 times 7 is 21. It's going to be negative because I know I'm multiplying this that already is negative by a positive number 3. So 12m minus 21 is an expression that is distributed. We do the same thing with the negative. In fact, this negative here is like saying there's a negative 1 outside. So in very true fashion, we're going to distribute the negative. That would make positive 5q to become negative 5q. And then negative 6 to become positive 6. That's distributing the negative. They show more work than is needed, you understand. What I'm showing you is an appropriate amount of work. Okay, now, I'm going to part with them just a little bit here because they're going to bend over backwards to make you realize this is the distributive property. So let me show you their work first. Okay. What they do is they basically have divided out w squared from both of the terms so that this can be negative 2 plus 1. That's like the reverse of the distributive property that we just did in the last two examples, right? Rather than multiplying something in, like if you were given this as a problem and you multiplied w squared here and here, you'd get this. This is the reverse of that. No doubt that it is the distributive property. I just think that's not the best way for students to think it through. Okay, now negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1, so they're getting negative w squared. But really, I would say just treat them like objects. You have negative 2 w squared, like you're in the hole, like you're in debt. Negative 2 w squareds. And just treat w squared like it's an object. You're adding back one of them. If I have negative 2 of something, and I add 1 back, now I have negative 1 of that thing. Negative 1 w squared, or just negative w squared. Treat it like objects. One more thing, and I'm glad they did put the exponent in here because it allows me to make this point. It's not w to the 4th. This is not a multiplication situation. Treat them like objects. If you have negative 2 of something and you add 1 of that something back in, now you're negative 1 of that very same something, w squared. This says write an expression for the product of negative 6 and the quantity 7 minus m. So the quantity would suggest parentheses 7 minus m. And if it's a product of negative 6 and that quantity, then we can just put the negative 6 out front like this. Negative 6 times the quantity, 7 minus m. And that's it. Thanks for tuning in.